Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today I thought I'd tackle something a little bit controversial in the art community, and in many ways I understand why this is such a controversial topic, but I also think what we're going to be talking about today it has gotten a little bit out of hand. It has a little bit more of a bad reputation than it should have. So today we're going to be talking about tracing, copying, and stealing. Let's talk about the big bad wolf in the art community, tracing. Tracing has gotten a pretty bad reputation in the community for some reasons that I will talk about later. But let's just talk about what tracing actually is. Tracing is a drawing technique in which you use some other sort of image and then you draw over it on another piece of paper or digitally. So what you end up with is sort of like a copy of the original. And here is where the problem comes in. The act of tracing in itself, I would say, is not a bad thing. It's actually pretty good. Like, it's an actual good thing. And we're gonna get to why it's a good thing, but the reason to why tracing has gotten such a bad reputation nowadays is because some artists decided to trace other people's art or photos and pass it off as their own. This seemed to be somewhat of a problem back in the day before digital stuff was happening, but especially nowadays with digital art and stuff, it's become way easier to do that stuff. So yeah, it's a problem. And with all of this controversy, it gets talked about a lot in the art community. And when I was in high school and learning art, there wasn't any talk about tracing, like, at all. Not in this context. Anyways, and I think all of this talk nowadays has made it so that younger artists, they just hear the word tracing and they go, ooh, bad. And I totally understand it, because when you see artists copy other artists, I mean, that's not very nice. But I'm here today to talk about why tracing is a good thing and that you should do it. When I was a kid, I loved Donald Duck. I used to always get those magazines delivered to my house, like on a subscription. Thank you, parents, for that. And I just liked Donald Duck. And I wanted to draw Donald Duck, but I didn't. I would try and it wouldn't go so well because I was a small child. So what I did was, I had an old trash can that I put on the floor, and that I had one of those IKEA desk lamps that you could turn in any direction. And I put that inside of the trash can and made sure the light was shining upwards. Then I had taken down one of my bigger picture frames that I had hanging on the wall, and I took the glass out and put on top of the trash can, and whoop-de-doo, I don't even know, I made my own light table out of nowhere. So then I could put my Donald Duck comics on top and then put a paper and the light make it so that the comic would see through, like I could see the comic through the paper, and I could trace Donald Duck. I could draw Donald Duck all day and it would look pretty good. And I can draw Donald Duck to this day, at least his face. So, to the point. Tracing is a great way to learn. It truly is a valuable tool that you could use to save time, just learn proportions or details, or just experiment, or just practice. For example, if you need a certain pose, and if you felt unsure about how to draw it, you could just take a picture of yourself, nowadays, anyway, and just trace over that. And then maybe next time, you'd know what it would look like. I mean, I guess you could mindlessly trace, but I mean, there is some brain activity going on. Usually you're sort of focusing on the lines that you're making. You're creating a mental image that hopefully will stay. And I do feel like this is a really good technique for anyone, but especially for children who are completely new to the world and they're trying to figure stuff out. Tracing is a really good way to learn, and that is why I think you should do it. And now to the topic of copying. While tracing definitely falls under the umbrella of copying, there is plenty more ways to copy things than just tracing. When I was writing the script for this video, and I was trying to think about what I should talk about for the copying part, it really just all comes down to art school. So what is it that they're actually teaching you in art school? I went to school for fine arts about 4 years or so, and when I think about it, most of the things you do is actually just copying. We're taught old techniques from the masters, the thing that works. We do still life drawing, which is just copy something you see. It's a common practice in art school to choose like an old famous painting and just do a replica of it. Like that's something you actually do in school. And generally, that is what you're taught to do. I spent so many hours in class staring in a mirror trying to make a replica of my face in clay. Like we did that for weeks. I remember this one particular thing so clearly, and that we were standing like in a circle and we were prepared to draw, like it was a still life thing. And we were preparing for that, and that we were waiting for the teacher to put something in the middle so that we could draw it. You know, usually it's like an apple or like a mug or something. And then he just comes up with this huge paper bag and he crumples it into a big ball, and then he pulls it out and it's all wrinkly and crazy looking, and he puts it in the middle and he says, "Go." And that was the craziest couple of days of my life trying to draw that crumpled up old paper bag. It was a challenge, but oh, did I learn about shadows and highlights and stuff. And art school is not telling you to just go out and copy things and then you make, like, do the paper bag and that's your art. Like, I mean, you could do that. It's pretty cool. But that's not what they're trying to do. They're trying to build up your mental library. Just as with the tracing I was talking about, you're creating mental images of stuff. How does light land on different surfaces? How does shadows work? I have never learned anatomy faster than when I've done like a nude model still life session. You learn a lot. So what you're doing is you're building up your library, and when you got all of those things, and I mean, you're never gonna run out of space, you can always learn more, but when you have a library with enough things in it, you can do whatever you want. And that is why you should copy. And now we're getting to steal. And steal sounds kinda bad. But it really depends on the context here, I feel. So we've all heard this quote, right? Allegedly. Our old buddy Pablo Picasso said, "Good artists copy and great artists steal." And apparently some people are actually thinking that he might have copied or stolen that quote himself. I guess we'll never know. But he does have a point. And we might go a little bit deep here. We might get a little bit philosophical. I've seen and I guess heard a lot of opinions of people saying that artists should only come up with original ideas, stuff like that. And I guess I have some thoughts about that. My unoriginal thought is, can we even have original thoughts? Yeah, I told you we're going there. And when I was thinking about this, I did some Googling to read about it and stuff like that, and what I found sort of resonated with that thought. I mean, we're all here, we're living in the same society, we're living in the same culture anyways. The same culture as our immediate area, I guess. And we know what we know. But how could we create something that we don't know? That's the problem here. I don't think we can. Because you sort of need to put 1 and 1 together to get 2. You just don't get to 2 out of nowhere. There is an old quote from Mark Twain that goes, "There's no such thing as a new idea. We simply take a lot of ideas and put them into sort of a mental kaleidoscope." And I feel like that's exactly what I'm going for here. And I would love to hear you guys' take on this. Like, definitely drop me a comment below if you have any thoughts about this, because it's pure philosophy, isn't it? I also stumbled upon the concept of multiple discovery, which is sort of the concept of that a lot of people sort of simultaneously invented the same thing around the same time. And this is based sort of what I was talking about earlier, that we're all humans, we all live in society, and we sort of have the same building blocks to work with from what we've experienced and seen in the world. And I mean, we're going to be somewhat different, absolutely, but we pretty much have the same building blocks to work with, and that's then resulting in people inventing the same thing very closely to each other, or something very similar to each other at the same time. And it's called multiple discovery. If you find that interesting, go and look that up. It's very interesting for sure. So what I'm trying to get at here is that we take what we find interesting, what inspires us, and we take little bits and pieces of it. We steal, so to say, we steal little bits and pieces of stuff. Like, I like this and that, and oh, and what if I mash this together? And then it somewhat seems like an original idea, whilst I don't think there is such a thing. So through tracing, copying, stealing, all these horrible things, you could make some wonderful art. And with all of that said, don't actually claim someone else's work as your own, because that is what has gotten these wonderful techniques to this point in time, where they have such a bad reputation. Well, there's nothing wrong with them in themselves. Sure, you could trace someone else's art or an image if it's for educational purposes and you properly credit the artist, but don't copy, steal, and trace and say that you totally did this all by yourself, because that's no bueno. And I mean, we're not gonna talk about AI in this video. Let me know if you want me to do a take on that, because that is very controversial and it's causing me stress. Anyways, this video is getting long, so I might just end it here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to support what I do, you can find me on Ko-fi. And if you want to see more updates from me, I update on social media every now and then. All the links are down below. Yes, thank you yet again. I will see you guys in my next video or in my next live stream. Have a good one. Bye-bye.